Today we're installing the TrafficMASTER Allure vinyl plank flooring with GripStrip. As you can see right there, a tongue and groove overhang and underhang. It's super easy for amateurs or pros alike. A few things that you'll need: tape measure, speed square or right angle, as well as a razor knife with a nice sharp razor blade in it. Make sure you got a few extras. Also something to help you clean that flooring. I'm using a drywall knife here, so just running around, scraping everything up and making sure you have a clean and flat space. Knee pads or an old pillow are definitely helpful as well. Not just to cry on, but to save your back so you don't cry so much later.
There's no crying in baseball!
It's important if you do have any floor seams that they do level as much as you can. You can go back and screw some things down to try to fasten them a little bit more level, or fill them with any sort of floor leveling filler or caulking or something that's going to provide a nice smooth transition from one space to another. At the end of the day, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more flat and clean you can have the space, the better the floor will sit and the longer it'll last. Now we're going to vacuum up that space, make sure it's ready to go. Next step would be to figure out our square in the room, basically how we want to lay out the flooring. And what you'd want to do is measure from one side of the room from wall to wall to the other wall to wall and see how much difference you have. Your first one is going to be your easiest one to cut down and line up. Often you'll want to square it up where you have a nice flat piece against some sort of space that's going to be exposed. I like to do it against a shower if we're running the same direction as the shower step in, or the doorway is always nice too, so you don't end up with a tiny piece. This room doesn't really matter so much, but you know, we're just going through the measurement, making sure they're the same. If they're off, you know, cut off your first row to accommodate.
Ooh!
Either way, we're going to want to cut off that overhanging GripStrip section on our first row, so you're basically left with a nice solid flat piece up against your wall. This stuff is so easy. All you really have to do is just score it. And for this one, I'll score the underside because you already have your flat edge running against the piece where there's the difference in height. Did end up having a little bit of sloppy extra. So super easy, just shaving it down with the razor blade. Obviously use some caution. Gloves, things like that would also be smart and helpful, but that's a story for a different day. Always make sure you're spacing it about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more even. You know, I don't have the trim up, but each row I'm starting 1/8 of an inch overhang side to side. So make sure you get your measurements, make sure you know where you're going to land, and you can use some of the spare cutoff pieces to give yourself that 1/8 of an inch. Again, if you're squaring it up with the other side of the room or something else, you may have this cut be a little bit deeper on one side and a little shorter on the other. Again, we're going to take off the GripStrip. It's simple as taking your razor blade and scoring it.
Did I just score?
And that's how we would do our first row all the way to the opposing wall, which we'd end up with 1/8 of an inch off. So as you go, just always keep putting the tabs over the tabs, the seams nice and tight. As you're measuring to the wall, again, leave your spacing. Here I'm digging out a little bit under the trim. I did cut that out. But as you can see, you can measure, you can mark, you can take a pencil on it and cut, snip, snip a little bit. Always take off less than you think. It's easier to take some off than it is to put some back. So you basically end up with your measurements, end up with where you're marking. And again, just scoring it across and snap. It's that easy.
Oh, snap!
Always making sure to leave at least 1/8 of an inch play even when you're going underneath the trim, which is what we're doing right here, going under the doorway trim. We haven't put it on the wall yet, but that's okay. Leaving 1/8 of an inch on the sides. We're doing our final cut here, just clean it off. Again, it's as simple as scoring, snapping, good to go. The big things to remember: always make sure that your grip strips, the under part are sticky and the top part are sticky, that they are nice and cleaned off. Make sure your floor is flat, cleaned, and good to go. That doesn't mean it has to be level, just flat. Also make sure when you're making your cuts that you have something protective underneath so you don't slip past your cut and go into your new floor. It's easy enough to replace a piece, but it's nice not to have to. So as you can see, it turned out super nice. Hopefully this helps. Feel free to ask some direct questions, and cheers, little buddy. Good luck.